very, very much for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. And congrats, Team Blue. We're hiring.
So, we will start with the elephant in the room. The Justice Department in the US settled with Binance last week, closing out a years long investigation that found anti money laundering regulations were not followed by the company. Shengpeng Zhao, CZ, is out as CEO, facing jail time and a big fine. Richard Tang, a longtime regulator in Singapore and right here in Abu Dhabi, is in as CEO. It's been a really, really big week, and I just want to know, how are all of you doing at Binance?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week to say the least, but we're doing fine. We're taking things day by day. The resolution with the US regulator is a great thing, not only for Binance, but for the entire industry. As you know, we're the leaders in the space, so it falls on our shoulder to drive the industry forward. And make no mistake about it, the future of crypto is a regulated one. And so, as the most regulated entity in the world, we have 18 licenses. It's on us to change the way things are done, and it's part of the maturation cycle of the industry. It's unfortunate that we had to see CZ go. We wish him all the best, and we appreciate all the work he's done to pioneer the industry from its early days. But given the direction we need to head now, I have absolute confidence and very much looking forward to working under Richard Tang to drive the next chapter here, given his extensive regulatory experience.
Right. He was ADGM's chief regulator for 6 years prior to coming to Binance a couple years ago. CZ is out, but he retains majority share. You do just said a fond farewell. That is what I'm reading you as saying.
I mean, he will remain in a consultation capacity as part of the settlement agreement. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, operationally, we'll have an independent board and Richard Tang at the helm to drive the business forward.
You joined Binance about 18 months ago, and prior to joining Binance, you were a serial entrepreneur. You founded companies working on ghost kitchens, deliveries, mobility. Your last job was at Amazon. No one was making you go crypto. Why did you go crypto? Why did you go Binance? What's this journey about?
Interesting question. So, as an entrepreneur, you're always mission driven, right? You have to, in order to endure all the grueling hours and sacrifices you have to make, you have to be driven by passion and a belief in something greater, right? It's not just financial objectives. And so, for me, with Web3, I fully bought into the mission of what it was meant to do, right? It brings with it the freedom of money and financial inclusion in a world where today 25% of the population still remains unbanked, right? And then the essence of the Web3 model is to democratize ownership. Web2 democratized information. With Web3, the creators in this space, right? They are the ones who will accrue the value and who will control the network going forward, as opposed to centralized entities. So that essence of the Web3 model was so fascinating because it meant that so many industries can be disrupted, new models can be created, and that's very exciting. And then for me, if you think about it historically, as someone who grew up in the Middle East, we are traditionally importers of innovation. Today, for the very first time, with UAE leading the pack, we are actually at the forefront of this technological revolution, and we are exporting technological innovation globally, and that to me is super exciting. So Binance was a no-brainer. It was a big entity, but it was still a startup at heart.
UAE, as you said, it's establishing itself as a hub. Dubai is regulated. Binance, you can trade in Dubai. Would Binance ever choose the UAE as a global headquarters?
I mean, by de facto, we kind of already are, amongst other places as well. So, UAE is very core to Binance's strategic objectives, not just from a Middle Eastern lens, but from a global perspective as well. Because you have to also understand, the UAE chartered regulations in this space when there was no blueprint available. So, without regulations, there is no mass adoption. So, this is a great precedent for the rest of the world to follow. And more importantly, it's also drawn a lot of talent to build, and that's the mission here, is to continue to build, to get more use cases, more utilities, so you can get the next billion users to come on chain. So the UAE's got it all. It's got the regulations, it's got the vision, and it's got the people to make it happen.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about your remit. You oversee Middle East, Africa, South Asia, which you joked before is you guys made it up. That's a swath of the map that you named yourself. MEASA.
MEASA.
Okay. We'll move on from that. So you're regulated in Bahrain, you're regulated in Dubai. freedom to operate there, but elsewhere, not yet. So what are you eyeing? You just said the blueprint in the UAE exists. It's great. Where are you thinking you can bring the blueprint next?
Yeah, so we have 18 licenses, and that's the largest in the world today. We have the most licenses, so it's not just the Middle East. UAE and Bahrain are just one examples, but there's more in Europe and other markets in Asia.
But in terms of your remit, excuse me, in terms of your remit and what you're looking at, are you eyeing opportunities? Where else in this region are you looking to develop opportunity?
Yeah. So it's an evolving landscape. It's important to take a step back and understand that, in terms of adoption, we are today where the internet was in 1999. So it's still very early. You have about 400 million crypto users around the world, and a good chunk of that is in the Middle East, with the UAE leading in terms of adoption at 28%. But that being said, there are other areas where crypto adoption has to catch up, not just from a usage, but also from a regulatory framework and a mindset for the economy and the government direction to say, hey, we want to embrace Web3. Once that happens, we'll start to look at different market opportunities, size it up, and then make a call commercially whether it makes sense to pursue it.
So crypto adoption, as you just referenced, it's at around 5% according to Binance figures, Binance's data. But since the fallout from FTX, Bitcoin's never really recovered. I would say the vibes are bad. The vibes sort of continue to be bad. What's your outlook on market growth and how you kind of chart your way out of this downbeat time?
Yeah, I'm personally, quite optimistic. With the emergence of any new disruptive industry, you're gonna have your ups and downs, right? It's just a part of the process. And then, for someone like to disrupt the incumbents, there's always going to be a sense of resistance. There's going to be a bit of issues and growing pains, but ultimately, I believe crypto will find its way because it's such a powerful technology, right? And so with Bitcoin specifically as a use case for store of value, Ethereum and the likes of the other blue chips, you're going to be able to drive regulations, bring in institutional ownership. This is going to be important because it will streamline price volatility, but also grow the pie. And from there, you'll see crypto mature as an asset class along with real estate, bonds, equities. Because if you think about it, I mean, crypto offers something quite unique. Today, it's about less than 0.5% of the total asset allocation pool. But it does offer a lot of things that other asset classes don't. So number one, it's quite versatile. You'll be able to get yields like you do with bonds. You can get dividends from revenue share from protocols. You will have appreciation in asset value like growth stocks. And you also have real estate exposure through the metaverse once that takes off, if ever. But the point is, it's very diverse, it's very new. And then the second thing to remember is that we are seeing the foundations of blockchain offer operational efficiency to financial institutions. They'll be able to settle and clear faster and cheaper. They'll be tokenizing financial assets to democratize it. And then lastly, something very important is happening where crypto is carving out its own correlation cycle to the macro economy, and it's decoupling from stocks. So we'll give asset managers diversity, right? But then the last thing here is that, and this is what I tell my friends, is that you have to realize there will be a intergenerational transfer of wealth from the baby boomers to the millennials to the Gen Zs. Okay, so the future decision makers of money will want to allocate to this space. So the future is bright.
Generation Alpha, off to Generation Alpha it goes. So that's interesting. You said the word volatility, so I want to stick with volatility and ask you, do you think volatility in this space is a feature or a bug?
It's a feature. One, you learn from it, right? It teaches you lessons. With the Luna collapse, it taught us that you have to really audit the underlying collateral, not take it for granted. With the FTX collapse, we learned that you have to do your due diligence. You have to have proper governance and controls in place for user safety, right? And so I think volatility is a necessary evil. And as I said, once it moves from early adopters to more mainstream to more institutional players in this space, it will smoothen out over time.
That's interesting. I want to stick on that. 2023 will be a watershed year in this space for crypto. What do you think the legacy of this year is going to be in terms of lessons learned?
Interesting question. I think the legacy of this year, and there's a lot to choose from, but I would say that it's crystal clear that the old ways of doing things is done, and crypto as an asset class needs to graduate, and enter a different cycle, one that is a partner to regulators and institutions and governments in order to really drive mainstream adoption going forward.
So this is a very technical, it's a confusing industry. I'm just moonlighting here as somebody who's trying to understand this space. Education is hugely important. I think that this industry tends to operate um, as it's plain confusing. What are you doing to educate people? Should Binance be educating people given your role in the market? You're a whale. Should you be the ones educating? Do we need impartial parties educating?
Great question. So, with the emergence of any disruptive technology, it always tends to be esoteric, where it only relates to a few segment of people. But education is the main ingredient to kind of bridge that gap and drive massive adoption. So people need to understand what is crypto, why is it important to them, and how to use it safely. So Binance is already doing this, and we invest a lot of our time and effort through Binance Academy to achieve that objective. But again, the onus isn't just on us alone. The more players in the space, the merrier to really push that message forward. And so for us specifically, we conduct a lot of MAs. We do partnerships with universities. We have free courses online with all the content that you need. Even our product itself is designed in a way where when you first engage with the platform, you go through what's called Binance Lite. It's a very seamless, very intuitive UI UX to get you to kind of dip your toes in crypto, and then you evolve to Binance Pro, which is a more rich feature set for more sophisticated investors.
Talking about that product, I want to kind of my last question here, because our time here today is short, unfortunately. My last question is looking ahead, casting ahead. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks. You guys saw this coming, though, so your eyes are on other trends. Your eyes are also on what else is happening. Cast out a decade from now. Think about trend spotting. What are your predictions for this space?
Okay. So I think, don't hold me accountable here, but Bitcoin will be a global store of value. DeFi will continue to grow. Crypto payments will become more ubiquitous. In fact, stable coins settled just as much as Visa did last year, around $11 trillion worth, right? Digital identity will become your new passport online, and the wallet will become the new cookie that captures user data and insights for advertisers, etc. So businesses need to realize that change is coming. They need to embrace it. They need to adapt, whether it's updating their tech stacks or making sure their talent pool is aware of crypto and how to adapt Web3 rails to future-proof their business. Because if history taught us anything with the internet, for example, is that if you don't evolve with disruptive technology, you die with it.
Bader, thanks for talking to me. This was fun.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Thank you.